Whoa, whoa, whoa. Morning, guys. What's going on? Hey, boss Fernando, what's going on? Oh, yeah, we got a little gap city in the market. You know, yesterday was a little bit of a flat day in the market, but that price action was nasty. We do have the QQQs breaking out to all-time highs, finally following the rest of the indexes here. This one's been at ATH for a while. So, you know, overall the market is feeling pretty strong. Now, the price action in the market has been notoriously weak. So what I mean by that is that, you know, even though the indexes have been climbing, we haven't necessarily been getting follow through on a lot of different types of stocks, and that's something, you know, we'll have to be super mindful of. You know, even though the QQQs have been going up, I think we'll probably have to add some tech stocks to our list. The price action been a little bit shady of recent, and, you know, we need to kind of be mindful that the indexes can mask, you know, a lot of pain in, you know, tech stocks and things like that. You know, like yesterday, all the money was on the short side, even though the indexes, see, were all flat. You know, all the money was really minus like maybe the first few minutes. You know, everything was a fader. Even like stocks that had really good charts were just fading off. So we'll have to be a little bit careful still. You know, this is a little bit different market than before, where when the market was gapping up and just busting all-time highs, like you were just seeing breakout city at every kind of stock possible. And we're not really seeing that right now, at least in the stocks that, you know, normally we would like to trade. Let's first take a look at the earnings plays and what kind of gappers we have. Then we'll narrow it down into, you know, what else is cooking around. Looks, oh man, NVCR. You know, that might actually, that's got a big range on it. Damn. Interesting. So you break out to $200 on this. I'd actually, you know what, I'd add this to the list. This is a pretty big gap for a $13 billion company. It really need to pull back. It really need to pull back pretty hard and start the round to, you know, kind of take a gab at this. You know, when you get some of these larger names that get them that much, that can be a little bit more tricky. But I would add this to the list just due to the range. You know, you've got a 150-point range so far. When you can nail a stock like this, I mean, it's game on. Like, you can rip 10, 20, 30 points even, you know, in a matter of minutes. I think we add that one to the list. Mackinac Financial. Ooh, is this a Michigan bank? Anybody ever been to Mackinac Island? That's a magical place. John Law in the house. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. This looks like it's a buyout, so we'll leave that alone. LGVN. It's actually got 1.5 million shares in volume. This one does trade with a little bit of a spread. You gotta. I'd actually add that to the list. So, guys, the big news for today is that, you know, they're talking about, I don't know if they've already done it, but they were talking about it last night. I'm pulling the Johnson & Johnson Corona vaccine, or a pause in it due to some blood clot kind of thingies. Who knows? I saw those like maybe like 5 cases of it or whatever out of like 10 million vaccines given out. But this is going to be in play today. You know, this is a little bit of a thicker stock, but it's definitely got, hey, Rodney, what's going on? There's a little bit of a thicker stock, but the news is out there. Now, this one doesn't move that well, but in opposite of this, you know, you're starting to see the Moderna start to push, and you got a interesting level over here at the 50 SMA that if it can kind of hold over this level, you might start building off into something. Same thing with NVAX. You got a gap in NVAX. On the Johnson & Johnson news, you're stuck under the 20 SMA. So both of those levels would have to clear. But if you start to see an ORB around those levels, like you're going to have yourself, you know, we may have ourselves a little bit of some runners. I would add both NVAX and Moderna to the list. I think that that's going to be I mean, both of those could be heaters for today if they hold. Now, the big hairy butt of both of these tickers is in the last, I would say, in the last couple months, they have not been holding their gaps very well, like at all. Like they haven't been holding their gaps very well at all. So that's like kind of more the recent price action on these things that we'll have to be super mindful of. You know, that they haven't been, the charts look good, but they are under a little bit of resistance, and you're not necessarily getting like easy holds on, you know, either one of these. So let's just be kind of mindful of that, you know, when we're going in this. Open mind, but they need to set up perfectly. They got to clear these levels along with having that perfect intraday pattern. Does that make sense? Good. Let's see what else did Papa Locket, OBAS, junk. Man, was anybody trading this Turks yesterday? I didn't even see the news on this. That's wild. I don't know if we can really do much on this one because who knows? I mean, this one may give me the heebie-jeebies. Who knows if this thing just keeps fading back off or not? The Chinese stocks in general have been weak. Can's gapping up 10%. They had their earnings out yesterday. This was a pure liquidation yesterday. Narrow core Q4 loss, lower revenues. You know, we've been trading Can in the chat room for a long time, and if you guys notice, like the price action on Can had been disgusting, really for the last like few weeks. Like every time you saw a hot intraday setup, like it would fail. I think now, well, at least now we know why. Now we know why. There was that big albatross around the corner. If this thing pushes off, I would say maybe into 15. You know, that was the big breakdown spot yesterday that took it down into 12. If you push close to 15, I think we actually look to start to re-roll this thing and probably refade it. The rest of the sector is going, but that was a nasty. That was 60 million shares in volume yesterday. I mean, I think we've got to come back and fade this one. Riot's looking real juicy. As long as it holds over yesterday's highs and builds, you can see you got a rounding pattern over here, breaking out over this trend line, breaking out over multiple EMAs here. Any kind of dip on this one, if it starts to hold, I think that we want to go with it. The one thing with Riot, it's always like a little bit of a catch-22, but Riot tends to do better on these like bigger pullbacks at the open than trying to get it on ORB. You know, like usually if you kind of chase that first candle, it doesn't work very well. It tends to work much better on that first pull to the 9 EMA. You can see Mara's flagging too. Both of these are top of the list. Both of these are top of the list. You can add BTBT also, but I think this one's got a little bit more work because it had a nasty unwind yesterday, so I don't think that's a priority for us. Bum, 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 bum. Tata Motors, a lot of these kind of ADRs were getting smoked yesterday. So this is NVAX holding up, mRNA holding up, MGA. You know, this is actually a nice little chart over here. It is e-liquid though. Take a pass on it. Take a pass. What are you guys all watching? These vaccines, I haven't gotten mine. I'm going to wait this thing out. I'm going to have to wait this thing out. Voozy. Man, Voozy. Yeah, Baidu's already fading off. Strange. Voozy's back down into support. You know, it tends to like to bounce off this kind of 20 SMA. We've seen it a few times. Just dip and rip, dip and rip. I actually, you know, with tech breaking out today, let's see, you know, if it holds its gap. This could actually be something. We'll keep an eye on it. It's not a priority just because the pullback was real nasty yesterday, but we've seen like nasty pullbacks in Voozy. This is just a trend trade, meaning like, you know, you're like breaking out, pulling back, breaking out, pulling back. Actually, most likely this thing holds. Peloton, I think this is probably going to be top of our list if the gap in the QQQs holds. You've got a remount here, the 50 SMA, and a little bit of a baby consolidation that's been coming out over here. If you look at more like kind of a 30-minute chart, you can see the levels starting to build over here. The old high was 125. You know, if the Qs hold, I think we could probably see 125 by the end of the day. That'll be a juicy one. And Peloton's just a clean trader in general. Let's keep an eye on that one. We're definitely gonna get a that's top of the list for today. On the short side, you can already see Baidu's rolling off here. On the short side, Baidu's got a rollover pattern. You get that big breakdown, pull back into 9. Now you're starting to bleed out here big time. This 209 zone or whatever it might be. As long as it holds under yesterday's lows and it starts to build, this one could be something. Yeah, Monica loves Baidu. So I would keep Baidu on the list. You can see even like TME is bleeding off. You know, this one, these things work really well on the green to reds. Like they spike up and fade off. They're all just getting liquidated slowly. Like the range has slowed down on them a lot, but they are getting liquidated slowly but surely. You see same thing with IQ. After that nasty dump, you got the dead cat bounce and now you're starting to go. I think they probably have to get down to their old lows before you can really start to look at them for like a happy-go-lucky long. You know, PDDs, this, you know, very, very similar. You know, you just break down, pull back, and now you're starting to bleed out. You probably need to get these things back down into the old lows before you look at potentially longing these off some kind of double bottom or something like that. They've been good. They've been great on the short side for us. I think we keep hammering them on spikes or bear flags, you know, whatever we end up seeing. So far we've got vaccine stocks, we've got Bitcoin stocks, we've got our Chinese stocks as 3 buckets. We want to add a couple tech stocks like Peloton. I would add in Etsy over here. You've remounted your MAs over here. You've got kind of a 3-day range break that's been developing here about 222. If it can crush over that, it may happen right off at the open. I think that's going to be something that we can definitely roll with. ZIM. It's got a nice consolidation over the 9 EMA after its original breakout. Usually when you get your first push, that next consolidation ends up being really powerful. That can set this thing off going. It doesn't have a huge amount of liquidity, so we'll have to just be mindful on the sizing of that. Sonos. This is a swing trade idea it's still forming here, but you've got a level over here in this kind of 42, 50, 43 zone. If it breaks that, I think this one's going to have a multi-day run on it. You did have a big volume day on it a couple days ago at 10 million. Usually if you see like while something's kind of pushing and consolidating, you start to see a few of these big volume days pop up. You know, that's a sign of accumulation. This thing, it looks ready to roll. For me, this is more of a swing trade. I'd probably throw this into my IRA or something like that if it breaks out and get this thing rolling into probably the 60s. I think that one's going to be holding up pretty well. Dash had a nice move yesterday at the open. You know, you went red to green and you ended up with $14 of move. The ATR on this is pretty good. It's an $8 ATR. The last 2 days, it's actually been more in the 15 to 20 zone. So you got some good action on this one. It's still got room to go till about 160 before you run in any resistance. The big hairy butt of this one is that Dash has a monster spread on it. So we'll have to be just super mindful of location. When you get the stocks with the big spread, you can trade them, but you want to make sure you don't just hammer like some market order like an asshole when these things start to go, because the bid and ask will start to widen up, and then you'll get left holding the bag on the spread. You know, you roll like 1,000 shares or something, and you hit it on the ask, and the spread is $1, then you're already down $1,000 before you're really even into the trade. That's a no buenos. We don't want to even be a part of that. PLBY has still got a lot of momentum on it. It's held a 9 EMA. you had a nice little push, $5 push off of it. It does tend to work really well off pullbacks. I say we run with the same playbook. If it gets over 32, we want to look at potentially long in this. If it pulls back and starts to grind at its EMAs, we could take a position with a stop under. This one's got sick range. The thing with PLBY is it can make your day in a hot second, which is awesome, right? That's the kind of trade we want to be in. You know, make your lunch very quickly on something like this. When you have $5 range, I mean, you hit your whole daily goal in one trade if you can get it right. So we definitely want to put an eye on this one also. If we need some shorts, I wouldn't roll with DH. It's too thin. If we need some shorts, I think we still go with those Chinese stocks. STPK. This one's had now two inside days. So after this big push from 25 to 31, you had an inside day, and then yesterday you had an inside day too. A double inside day is actually kind of powerful. If this thing starts to go, like you're down about 2.5%, if it goes red to green, I think we take a try on this one. It also has a little bit of a spread. Now this one's like maybe 20 cents, but on $29 stock, 20 cents still adds up. You do 2,000 shares. If you slam it on the ass, you're going to be down $400 before you know it. You want to level into it like 500, 500, 500. If you're trying to get to 2,000, whatever it might be. The range on this is sick, but the spread is a little bit ganar. So you're going to have to just be, a little bit careful. I know a lot of you guys have been watching this Tiger. Tiger's okay, but it's hard to get a read on it because it's like the easy bounce is over, right? So this thing got the $12. The easy bounce is over. What happened here is done. You know, the one thing with trenders is this is the trend. That's when you want to be hitting the dips. Now that trend is done. Now we had a dead cat bounce. That's done. So now, like, what's next? Could it go? Yes, it can. But like, is it? If you didn't know what this ticker was, right, and you don't remember trading this and making money. So if you never saw this ticker, this is like you were just looking at this chart for the first time in your life, right? You wouldn't say like, oh, this is my hot play of the day, right? You wouldn't say that. Like, you wouldn't say that at all. And that's where, we have to sometimes disconnect what is happening in, our brains versus like what is happening, in reality. So that's going to be like Tiger is something we can play, but that's not like a hot chart. Like it's just not. Like there's nothing hot about it. We like to play it because we made all this money on it over here, and now we want to do it again. But this type of action only comes from months and months and months, and sometimes years of basing. Years of basing and sideways consolidation. When you break, you get those kind of moves, right? We've had 2 weeks of consolidation. So like this type of move is not in the cards. That's not in the cards. Is it an okay trading vehicle? Sure. But that's where you got to always go with this thing. Now let's take a look. Yes, apps is a nice one because that's a tech stock. This is to me is more of a swing trade too. I frankly, like for something like this, I put a stop at $80 and just let it roll. I'd rather put a stop at $80 and just let it roll. You probably see $120, $130. At some point, if the market holds, that's going to be, I don't know if this is like a great day trader per se. There's days it is, and then, there's just days it's not. It's there, though. It's there. And use a thick bastard. That's the 6th time you actually asked me about it, Jesse. You love this thing for some reason. Look, it's just a grinder. This is not a breakout. It's a, see this? That's what it is. It's just a channel grinder. A channel grinder is okay. Like, what are you really going to do with it? Yeah, it's just a channel grinder. No big, nothing too hot, nothing too sexy. If you're going to play semiconductors, it's better to go with like something like a NVIDIA that you've got, like, see these like clean intraday patterns, a little bit of a lower float, better range, more sexiness, better chart, so on and so forth. But yeah, you don't want to roll too deep into a channel grinder because then you end up with just chop. So that's, I'd rather, if you want to trade, a semiconductor, I roll with NVIDIA, but NVIDIA might be a two-tapper here. So we're at resistance. It's not really my particular flavor at the moment. Got it. Future. Nice 3-day pullback into the MAs now. You're starting to hold at this 50 spot. This is another one, like we would need the Chinese stocks to go, and some of them look weak, some of them look strong. If they hold, then I think we can roll with this, but I wouldn't put too much faith into it just based on the price action of the other names in China stocks the last couple days. We'll have to be super mindful of just, hey, the chart looks great. You've got a lot of support underneath, but the Chinese stocks have been getting flooded. If this Baidu ends up flushing out today, then, maybe we start to see a little bit of nastiness in the other ones. So moral of the story, we got Bitcoin stocks. We got some techs. Peloton, Etsy, you can add apps if you want for potential swing trade. Sono for potential swing trade. We've got China stocks for potential shorts. Then we've got these vaccine stocks. NVAX, mRNA. If you want something more specky, this LGVN is looking zesty. It's looking caliente. It's looking like it's got a chance to be a hero, but it's going to have a spread. It's going to trade wild. You're going to have to corral the heat on it. We can add in NVCR, but I'm not that keen on chasing a $15 billion company up 60%. So we'll have to see how that thing handles. And I'll probably take these fucking things out. Now let's see if there's anything good on the downside. ATX, junk. Too cheap. Yeah, all junk. Good. These are the gappers. These are the lists. Remember your buckets. You got tech, you got Bitcoin, and you got China, and then you got gappers. All right? That's the list. We're sticking to it. I'm sure there's other good stocks out there, but they ain't anything worth playing. Funko is nice. Somebody just mentioned Funko. Funko is a really nice chart. I do like it. I got two worries on Funko. Number one, the whole sector of NFT stocks are like fading off. So that's a no buenos on Funko's end. The other part, even though you got this breakout at 25, the volume is dried up on it. I've been watching it. I got an alert set here at 25. If it gets close, about 24, 25, then we'll be okay. Pins, I don't know if pins are rubber band short per se. I don't think it is, but it could be. But it's on too much support, frankly. So that's not really my particular flavor. I definitely want to add in some of these techs, though. I think we got to add in a couple techs. And we got our Bitcoins. I mean, we got a busy day ahead of us, right? So, Mara, Riot. Riot's got Riot was moving better than Mara yesterday. Now, both of these are up 10%, so we can't chase these bad boys off. We can short can on the green to red. If it gets closer to 15, I think we're going to be good to go. Yeah! Pot stocks stink. Screw those. All right. Now we got these. Let's add those vaccine stocks. Let's see if they hold. Remember what I said about the vaccine stocks? That they haven't been holding their gaps at all. So we got to be super mindful of that. Good. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. TDOC trades like shit too lately. Pass. Ba-da-ba-bum.